We got a short project tonight. I need to make a pull rope for pull starting a pony motor. So what we have here is some 5/16 rope. This is nylon rope. It's not quite what they use from the factory, but it's the closest thing I could find at our local hardware store. And then I bought a 4-foot piece of this 1 1/8" dowel. Squatch 253 gives all the dimensions for both the handle and the rope. He has the rope at 80 inches long from knot to handle, so we'll probably go about 6 inches longer than that to accommodate for the handle, the knot, and then the knot on the other end. And if we need to shorten it up from there, no big deal. As far as this goes, it's an 1 1/8" dowel, 4 inches long, and then each end is tapered down, and then they drill a hole in the center. So to do the taper, we're going to go over to the lathe. I'll kind of show you what I have planned there. So before I chuck this in the lathe here, this is our center mark. To each side of this, we're going to go 1/2 inch, and then we're going to taper down from there. This 1 1/8" diameter is going to taper down to 3/4 inch. This mark here is going to be true end. Since these actually come, you can kind of see they're not really a great cut from the factory end. I just left some material there. I'll just sand that down. So we'll get it in the chuck here, and I'll show you my plan for getting this taper in here. So with it chucked in, I'll use the lathe to turn it so that we keep this, I don't know if you'd want to say concentric, but even all the way around. And then I just have a 4.5 inch angle grinder here with a new flap wheel disc on it. I'm just going to start there and work my way out and kind of put more pressure as we go out. It really shouldn't take a whole lot. It's just wood. These flap wheels are made for grinding steel. This really shouldn't take that long at all. Okay guys, you gotta admit when you screw up, so that's sharpened well beyond 3/4 inch. That's about 3/8 inch. So this one's going straight in the trash, and we're not going to do the next one by hand. Luckily we bought 4 feet of this material, and we learned real quick that doing this by hand is not the best option. Now this lathe does not have a taper attachment, but what it does have is a compound. And so what I can do there, I have a bracket for this angle grinder. We will put that grinder in the compound, set the angle. I'll have to figure out what that angle needs to be in order to make it from 3/4 inch back to 1 1/8" in the distance we want it to. So once we get all that set up, I'll bring you back. Okay, with everything back in place, we have the compound set at a -7° angle, as I would call it. We're actually coming back towards us. I also just flipped that piece around. That way if we figure it out, great, then we know what to do in the next one. But if we mess it up, the other side's already messed up, so we'll use it as a learning piece. I set the taper of the flap wheel flat with the part. So I think we are good to give it a try. I think I got everything kind of figured out. We didn't quite hit our mark up here, but we're pretty close to our 3/4 there. Now this isn't going to be exact to what Caterpillar had. They had more of a radius curve to those, not really a taper, but it's going to be really close, as close as I can get without spending a ton of time on it. I mean, realistically, as of right now, I have about 20 minutes into this, and I pretty much have a system figured out. So I'll go cut a new piece, get this one out of here, mark out my new one, set my center right flush with the jaws here, and we should be able to run it through, flip it around, do the other side. We should have a workable piece when we're done. And there we go, we have a workable piece. We're tapered in to that line, same tapered into that line. The only thing I need to do now is clean up the ends, maybe clean this up a little bit. This is a bit of an aggressive disc for wood. As I said earlier, all this stuff is made for metal, but it seemed to do the job. So let's clean up the ends and get it out of the lathe. So back over on the bench here, you can see we have our dud. We have the one that actually turned out fairly decent. And in the hand, it actually feels really good. I was worried about that these were a straight taper, not more of an arc, that they wouldn't fit in the hand nice, but they do. They should function just fine. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to drill this one. And I'm going to slowly step up drill bit sizes until I'm happy with the way this rope fits in there. The reason I'm going to do that with this one is this is kind of the guinea pig. That way we don't mess this one up. So I need to get about an 86-inch or so piece of this rope unraveled from here. So there's the tail right there. Get that pulled out, get this measured out, get it cut. We'll meet you over at the drill press. Well, that was the first hole we drilled. That was a 5/16 hole. Rope isn't super tight in there, but that's okay. I'm actually kind of happy with that. It slides through nicely, so we'll be able to move it around when we need to for when we're pull starting the engine or the pony motor. So I think we're going to run with that. So I'm just burning the ends here about 1/2 inch down or so. If it would focus here. That way these strands don't try to untangle themselves. So you just get them nice and warm, blow them out, and then once they cool down just a little bit, you can kind of press them together either with some tools or your fingers or whatever your preferred method is. With both ends burned, one thing I did do, I put a 45-degree chamfer on each of these holes just to keep from chafing that rope. And it's just a simple single knot on each end, wherever you want them knots, I suppose. I would think on this one you'd want it closer to the end where it engages with the flywheel. But that's something we can adjust where we like the knots at, and if need be, if this rope is too long, I can move this knot down to here, cut this off, reburn it, etc. until I'm happy with it. So this was a short, simple project. We're going to need this one, so stick around guys, you'll see why.